Well, I've come back out to a place I like to be, and I'm just going to do some videos. Several people have asked me to do follow-up videos on things that I use all the time and how they're going kind of a year or so later. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I've come back out to a site I like. I'm surprised this didn't get washed out in the floods. I've just been down to the creek down there, and there was a tree that was, let's see if I can get down there and show you. There was a tree that I have walked across, which was about probably a foot or more in diameter, and we had some severe flooding through here the other week. And down through here I can see the remains of the tree on the far side. Right down there, on the far bank there, you can see a tree snapped in half. That tree was, like I say, about a foot, maybe 14 inches through, and I have used that as a bridge before now. And as you can see, the amount of water we had down through here, this tree that's laying here, this tree butt here, this is new. Last time I came here, that wasn't there. Now it is. And the tree that was across down there that I used as a bridge is now gone. Yeah, this tree is completely new. So it gives you an idea of how much water came down through here. And there's a couple of trees up there that I noticed that were across and now aren't. Yeah. Just amazing, absolutely amazing. The power of water. Never ever underestimate the power of water. Yeah, this is all turning nice and green up in here. I can see where the water flowed through here pretty good too. And this is like a little bypass channel. I'm really surprised my fire pit site didn't get washed out. I'm even more surprised that that tree hasn't fallen over yet. I can see there's some more bank erosion over on that side where the tree is. It's moved a whole bunch of debris in here, so I keep tripping over stuff, so apologies for falling over things. My nice little bench tree that I had over there, looks like the water hit that as well, snapped that on me. Oh well, but I still have this bench, so that's good. So I've bought a bunch of gear with me today, and I'm going to go through some of the pros and cons of the stuff that I use. And I've also bought the Ohuhu stove with me today. I'm going to make a cup of tea in a mo. I'm just going to get this thing set up, and then I'm going to run through some stuff. Alright, I'm going to run through some things here. The reason I'm redoing the Ohuhu stove is the other day I was looking through the internet, looking at all of the bushcraft videos, and there's some really good ones out there. There's some really good information out there for people to use. And then I found another one on how to use and set up the Ohuhu stove, and I have to admit I have absolutely no clue how they managed to get that so wrong. So this is how I keep mine. I keep everything in the thing. Now, one thing that I do keep in there, this little shelter. They're not much money. They're handy to have. They're pretty much a one-time use thing. You can fold them back up and use them again. But these things will actually retain a lot of body heat. I love the picture they put on there. They show you this amazing picture. These things do actually work. So they're not a bad idea to have with you. So let me get all the bits. Always have wire with me. You never know when you need a piece of wire. Wire has many uses in life. Right, so that's my pot. I'm going to make my tea in a mo. I'm going to see if I can put this together how they had it. I'm not even sure how they managed to get it. I'm not sure how they managed to get it. So that's it. This is how they had it. Like this. They had this thing set up like this, right? With the fire in the bottom of here. They were just putting sticks in it, and I had a pot sitting on top of here. I'm like, how did you get it so wrong? Yeah. So anybody that's ever used one of these stoves, I'm going to go over this again. It's very simple. You have a fire basket. That's where you put your fuel. Then you have a bottom ring. Then you have the gasifier piece, which is a double-walled stainless steel thing. That sits in there. That sits inside And when you've got it going, you can put this on the top for your pots. Now, one of the things that I noticed, let's just kneel on that. One of the things I noticed for the thing is a lot of people still don't understand how these things work. And it's very, very simple. It's a brilliantly simple system. When this is sat on the ground, let's have that lock off there. When this is sat on the ground, I'm going to sit it in the original fire pit because that way I'm not doing any damage. I do have my bucket of water with me, and again, I will say this many, many times in all my videos. Once you light a fire, you are responsible for that fire. Whether it's a fire this big, or this big. Doesn't matter. It's your fire. Until it is stone cold, you are responsible for it. So, ohuhu stove, it still has hot pieces fall out of the bottom here. So how this thing works is you fill this up until your fuel is just below these holes. I'm using wood pellets today because I have a huge bag of these at home and I need to use some of them up because I'm not using too many of them at the moment. The idea is you fill it up just below the holes here. As that's burning, these fires, they don't burn from the bottom upwards, they burn from the top downwards. When you set fire to a piece of wood, let me find a piece of wood. When you set fire to a piece of wood, what happens is you're oxidizing that wood and it's releasing gas. It's wood gas that you're releasing. The wood gas comes up through the double wall on the side here, out through these holes, and as the wood gas comes out through these holes, it burns. That's what creates such an amazingly efficient fire, because basically you're converting everything to wood gas. It's coming out through these holes and just giving you amazing heat, and the charge burns downwards. As the fire is burning in here and it's heating up this inside ring, air is drawn in through these holes here, up the side, mixes with the wood gas, so you've got your fuel air mixture. Everybody knows for have a fire you need fuel, air and heat. You've got heat, fuel, air in through these holes, up through here. So fire basically goes downwards. So what we're going to do is sit that in there nice and level, because I have a decent sized pot to put on there today. I'm going to put this one on there today. We need some wood pellets. Now the only thing I find with these wood pellets, yes, they burn really, really well. You do need a few sticks, preferably just to get them going, or a lighter, whatever. There should be exactly the amount I need in there for this. So let me show you. Below the holes in the top there. Yeah, perfect. So I am going to need, like I say, if you've got a little lighter or whatever, you can zap these things and they get going. They do take a little bit of getting going, so I'm going to find some cotton balls, my favourite cotton balls. I'm going to get some cotton balls, get these things going, get this fire going, and then most importantly, get some tea going. Yeah, right. Let's get that all underway and I'll get back to you in a moment. Thought I just heard something. Oh well. They said it was going to rain today, and there's a very good possibility it's going to. Looking at that sky up there, looks like it's going to rain. However, a little bit of rain's not going to be a problem. But, right. Let me get set up here, find some cotton balls, get this fire going, and we can go from there. Right, so I have fire is going. Now, as anybody that uses these stoves will tell you, get in that initial fire start, unless you use a little butane torch or whatever. I've seen people do that. You always end up putting a few little twigs in the top just to get the fire going a little bit better. And as you can see, she's going now. I can just see through the little holes on the side there, starting to get a bit of wood gas come up, but I'm going to use that available heat because I'm burning up valuable tea time. Now, I did bring my flask with me today, but it does not have tea in it. What it has is milk in it. So I will get this ready. This is the most important part of bushcraft. People teach you all these shelter building and all that kind of stuff, but the most important thing to learn anywhere is how to make a good cup of tea. So I have some milk in here. Pop in the tea bags. Let that start to soak. Once my water boils, I can pour my boiling water in there, make tea. Absolutely vital. Gotta have tea. Now, one of the reasons that I'm here today doing this, let's just have a look. Oh, yeah, look at that, eh? Nice. One of the reasons, and these things, I've had my 3-litre kettle on here, and that is a pretty heavy kettle. It stands about this size, one of those big blue kettles. In one of my previous videos, you can see that on there. And it, this little stove, these things are stunning. It boils up water just like nothing. It's absolutely brilliant. See? Got good heat in there. Oh, there's a nice little stick. That's I'm not going to waste that one. Tiny log there. Yeah, stick that on there as well. There we go. Yeah, quite often when you light these things, it's not a bad idea just put a few sticks on the top. Yes, you only fill it up to the top of the holes, and when the fire's going, you don't want fuel above those little holes on the inside, because that's where the wood gas comes out. When you burn something, you take this log, this is one from a previous fire. When you burn something, you're turning it into gas, and it's the gas that's burning. Yeah. Now, here's an interesting thing. If I was boiling, all I'm doing is boiling up some water to make some tea, and I'm going to review some of the gear that I brought with me. However, if I was making a normal log fire to boil up this water for a cup of tea, I would need several logs this size. I would need probably, by the time I finished, I'd probably be using this amount of, if I stacked it up, probably a pile of firewood this high. When you're using these stoves, I've used a few wood pellets, some small sticks that were just laying on the ground here just to get that initial fire going, and that water's already starting to sizzle, and away I go. And very shortly I will have tea. That's the important stuff. Now, people have asked me about several things that I use. One of the things that I use and I absolutely love, I want to make quite clear, and unfortunately nobody pays me to say these things. It'd be rather nice if I was earning money out of doing this stuff, but I don't. I just do it because I enjoy doing it. This, the Silky Big Boy 2000, this has to be the best. Put it in your backpack, get you out of trouble, cut up some decent firewood. I mean, this blade, I don't know how long this blade is. It's, I'll say that, about 14 inches, 15, 16, something like that, I don't know. But I tell you what, I've had this thing probably 10 years now, and I broke one blade, purely my fault. I was very, very tired. At the end of the day, I'd walked an awful long way, and I went to cut a tree. And it was a hard tree, like one of these, but it was only about yay round, and I wasn't paying attention, and I leant too much forward as I pushed the blade through, and I heard it go tink, and I thought, oh crap. That's not good. So that was right at the beginning of my camping trip, so I had to do something. Fortunately, I do have a spare blade. Now, had I not had a spare blade, I could have just cut two smaller pieces of wood, stuck them on either side, wrapped it up with some cord, made it into a handle. I'm not going to put my hand right around there because these things are ridiculously sharp, and that would have still given me a saw blade this long that I could have still used for cutting wood. So although the blade broke, I could have still used it for what I needed. It would have got me out of trouble. But I can tell you now, these things, the only thing I really wish Silky did was a proper cloth sheet. I had to make my own. I just bought some of that Cordura nylon, the sheeting, made it up, put some Velcro on it. Mind your fingers on these things, because these things will do your hands some serious damage. What I did is I just made up a pouch. It's my nippers for when I'm trail clearing. I do always have a spare blade with me now because I'm paranoid about it, but all I did was make up a simple pouch. It takes a spare blade. I can put my saw in it. My little nipper things go in the front. I lay that across there. This is all Velcro. I just sewed some Velcro on here. Incidentally, if you're sewing Velcro on a sewing machine, I learnt this the hard way. Put the Velcro face down. You need the Velcro away from the bottom spool of cotton, because if you don't, it just snags up your sewing machine and you spend a lot of time trying to fix your sewing machine. I learnt that the hard way. You have to sew it from this side, not from this side. So that was a lesson hard learned, I can tell you. But that then just sits over there, fits in there nicely. I just put some loops on the back here so I can put it on my belt, a couple of different size loops so it can fit in different positions. And away it goes. Love this thing. Absolutely brilliant. And it sits on there real nice. I have my ever trusty Gerber. I'm not going to go through the whole spiel again with our friends whose name is on this. Very clever guy. Does some really good stuff. But I just don't like having a 20-man film crew. So, brilliant knife. I have beat the living hell out of this knife. It is extremely well designed. It's very well built. It has a little tiny fire steel, which I've only used like once or twice, I must admit, because I have my big ones. But it's brilliant. It's got a knife sharpener on the back. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's a good tool. In here, probably one of the most underutilized things that people have. I have a very small Poncho. This is made by Coleman. Absolutely brilliant little, I think, that's starting to gas in there nicely. Brilliant little Poncho, folds up to nothing, fits in here real easy. I really wish I had one of my old military ponchos. That was really good. Those things are incredibly strong. I mean, that's not as strong in any way, shape or form as one of the old military ones, but I can tell you now, it does a really good job. Nothing worse than being out in the middle of nowhere and getting soaking wet, because I can put up with being cold, I can put up being in the middle of nowhere, like wandering around trying to figure out where the hell I am. I can put up with all that kind of stuff. However, when you're soaking wet and trying to do that stuff, not fun. Not fun at all. This water's starting to boil in there already. I can actually feel it through the handles. It's bubbling already. There's bubbles coming out. I'll show you in a moment. We've got bubbles in here. The other thing that people have asked, I've had this thing about a year now. This is the Boy 500. In terms of wood saws, this thing is insane. I have cut hundreds, literally hundreds of trees with this thing. So I do a lot of trail clearing and what have you. And this thing is insane. There is a big one, there's a 650. There's a really, really big one, which is the 1000. I mean, the blade on the 1000 is nearly as long as this. I mean, that's just way too big for anything I need. Way too big. But this thing, it cuts insanely large trees. It really does. And touch wood, never had any trouble. This blade is still ridiculously sharp. Just be very careful if you ever touch these teeth, because these teeth will make a big mess of your hands real fast. Yeah. Again, with any silky saw, only cuts on the pull stroke, not on the push stroke. All you're doing on the push stroke is basically moving it from one end to the other, and it helps clear out some of the sawdust that you may have in the cut. Cut on the pull. They do have the safety catch. Do use it, because if this thing closes on your hands, you're in for a really, really bad day. Really bad day. Yeah. So it has a double lock so that you can't close it on your fingers. You have to consciously close that thing down, and do it carefully, because it will bite you. Silky make an incredibly good sheath for this one, I have to admit. It's really, really handy. I actually love this thing. Like I say, I have cut literally hundreds of trees with these things off of trails, and some ridiculously big ones too. That is an amazing tool. Always, always, always out here. Bear spray everywhere. I have two with me today. There are a lot of bears out in this area. A lot of bears. Something that a lot of people never do with their gear. Every time I see somebody do this, is a very simple thing. With the toggles, you've always got the zips that open both ways. Yeah? Same as that inside pouch, open both ways. When you do them up, put the zips at the top. Now, I've heard people say, oh, if you put the zips at the top, water could get in there and all the rest of it. But I tell you something that can happen that's even worse than maybe 2 raindrops getting in there. If you have this zip down here, for instance, and you bring the other one over, that leaves a small gap. See the gap? Things can fall out of that gap. You start losing headlamps, bug spray, compass, you know, all living in here. So always, always, always zips at the top, Just remember, gravity sucks. It doesn't flow uphill, so everything goes downhill. So a few more things that I'm going to go through here. This is Alberta in July. That's boiling lovely now, but I'm going to let that boil really good. Alberta, this time of the year, June, July, bugs, mosquitoes, billions of them, billions and billions of mosquitoes. I use this, again, I don't get paid. I'm not doing this on behalf of the company. This is just stuff that I have found over the years that actually works really, really, really well. This is Ben's bug spray. It's a pump bottle. It doesn't smell too bad either. But I can tell you now, mosquitoes, you put this stuff on it. I put some of these woods, like walking through here, is absolutely teeming. And I mean teeming with mosquitoes. Millions and millions of them. So I find this stuff actually works really well. There's another one called, a friend of mine uses Watkins. That they swear by Watkins. So whatever works for you. I have to say, using the off products over the years, limited success. I'll be honest with you, limited success with that. But this stuff, and it's the same price. So this stuff, I can tell you, is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The other thing I always like to have with me when I'm out and about is headlamp. Always have a headlamp with you. This one has a switch on. I'm not sure what would you call that. Like a safety switch, if you like. So when it's in your backpack, see, I've just turned it on. You get that single flash when it comes on. That stops it accidentally turning on in your pack. The thing I like with this is the battery pack is on the back, light on the front. I have red light for working at night. Then I have high white, and then a broad white light, and wherever you set it, you've got a flashlight in case you're stuck somewhere. It helps people identify you. Whatever mode you leave it on, I like to leave it on red. You push the button on the top, hold it a few seconds, and it will go off and then flash twice. He says, maybe. It should. You're going to go off. Right, there we go. Now push the button, hold it, wait, and it should flash twice. There we go. That's in lock mode now. That means that I can't accidentally have it running in my pack and draining my battery. The thing I like with this, the power cord on the bottom of here, I can, in the top of my pack, there's always that nice little pocket at the top of your pack. I have a lead that I can put a booster pack in there, like one of those little battery booster packs. Plug it straight in there. So, and it's a pass-through. So it's some lights you have to charge them and you can't use pass-through power. This one, bing, done, finished, put it on. I can run it off my booster pack in my back, and it literally runs all night, literally all night. So that's those two things. I'll come back to my compass in just a second there. Right, one thing I always like to do, and this is an old habit, I don't know if this is a military thing or whatever, but whenever you finish with something, stick it back in its pouch, do the clips up. If you've got things you're putting in your pockets, make sure the zips are done up. I can remember my old Sergeant Major literally smacking me around the head because I hadn't done my pockets up, I hadn't done the buttons up. Yeah. And then he had this thing that if you saw your pockets undone, he would basically take everything out of your pockets that was in there, and now you no longer had it. And he's just taken it off you because you lost it, because your pocket wasn't done up. Got a good boil going in there, look, see? Pot ready, yeah, ready for tea. See, got to have the essentials. Now, one thing that I try to remember it as much as I can. I mean, I have a really good sense of direction, north, east, southwest anyway. And it, however, one thing I do like to have with me as much as possible is my compass. And this is just a Sununto one, or however you pronounce it, Sununto or Sununto, whatever. It's brilliant. I had silver compasses for years and years and years. Unfortunately, I did lose my silver compass, which was a pain in the rear end. Yeah, and it was very good. I love the silvers, absolutely brilliant. This Sununto one as well, very, very good. I don't have any trouble with this whatsoever. I'm just going to show you how this works. A lot of people, a lot of myths and what have you with compasses. People say, well, compass is no good unless you've got a map. Well, compass is really good if you don't have a map, because as long as you know where you started, like when I got out of my car earlier, I knew exactly which direction I was travelling. So for argument's sake, let's say I was travelling west. I'm just going to bring this compass around. Make sure your compass is always level. It's in the thing there. Compass is level. You can see the needle moving, pointing to north. What you want to do is zero your compass. You'll notice that my north and the arrow there, see the N at the top there? They're slightly off because of where I live. There's always a little bit of variation, and each area has its own degree of variation. Ours is about 12.5, 13 degrees. So what you have on the back, there's a little tiny screw up in there, a little brass screw, roughly in about the 10, 11 o'clock position that you can see there. And they do actually give you a tiny, tiny little screwdriver. You have to be really careful. Basically turn that, set that to your adjustment for wherever you live. And you can easily find that information online. Set your compass up, rotate your compass around. You'll see there's that little red piece there with the two fluorescent dots. Compass is right there, right in the middle there. Some people call it the shed, the dog shed, put it in the dog house, whatever. Call it whatever you want. But basically, north lines up in there. So I travelled, actually, from where I am now, I travelled east-southeast to get here. That's where I came from. I know to get back to where I am, east-southeast. So north-northwest is how I came through the forest. So as long as you know where you started, get out the vehicle, set it on the direction you're going, you know what direction you set off in. So in order to go back to where you started, 180 degrees back over the other way. So yes, I don't have a map with me, but I don't need a map because I know where I started. Yeah, and as long as you use your compass from where you started, you've got an initial position, set off, away you go, have a good day, come back later. Yeah, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you have absolutely no clue where you are, there is lots of clues. Like here at the moment, down there's a creek and it's flowing downhill. Water usually flows down to civilization, so it's usually somewhere along riverbanks is where you'll find civilization or somebody living close to it, and that's a good thing to follow. I usually follow water downhill. It's not usually uphill because it's usually heading up into the mountains. If you follow it downhill, you're heading towards civilization somewhere. Yeah, might be a long walk, but you're heading towards civilization somewhere. So back to your compass. Compass has many, many good things on it. Where my finger is here, there's a nice little magnifying glass. There's all the different scales should you happen to have a map with you. And one of the things I really like about this is it has a mirror, a really, really good mirror. And there's a signaling device. You will be amazed at how far you can see that little mirror from. Now, I'm just going to set this camera back up because I need to show you how to actually do this, because a lot of people I don't know why they can't figure this bit, but they can't. So I will put the compass down. I'll put the camera down, sorry. With a mirror, you want to signal somebody with a mirror. You'll see people just doing all this crap. No, what you do the Spock thing. Yeah, I call it the Star Trek thing. So put the people and everything, or the son of that people, between you and there. Because you don't know where this mirror is pointing. So if the people are over there, you've got there, sun's up there, what you do is you set the mirror up until the reflection or the light is bouncing off your fingers and towards the person. So if the person is between the gap in your fingers, you've got the light reflecting on your hand. You can then take your hand out the way. You know now that the reflected light is heading over towards those people. And as a rule, 3 flashes. That usually gets people's attention. Like if I'm out in a forest and I hear somebody blow a whistle 3 times, I know they're in trouble. And if you keep hearing it, people think it's SOS and all that kind of. SOS basically doesn't actually mean anything. People think SOS means save our souls and all that kind of stuff. It actually doesn't. It's just a really good, easy to hear. It's really easy to hear on a radio, or flashing a light, or a car horn. It's one of those things that's really noticeable. I think back in the early days of Morse code, I think the emergency was something like CQD or something like that, which is it just doesn't, it's not the same, you know. You know, it's not really quite the same as Now if you know Morse code, question mark is 2 dots dashes, dots. So IMI, if you like. I always refer to it as question mark as I missed it, but it's not. It's just one of those things. It's question mark, and question mark is diddy-da-da did it. So you've got to be careful if you're sending a question mark not to send SOS. It's really dumb. There are some great things. Morse code's one of those things that everybody should learn. It's just really, really good. My Morse code is very rusty. I haven't used it for a very long time. There's all kinds of variations of Morse, compressed Morse and what have you. There's all kinds of variations on Morse. And a lot of the skills that you have, you remember some of them, but unfortunately, if you don't use it every day, you do kind of lose that ability, which is a shame because it's something that everybody should learn. But you'll find when you do learn, there are some amazing words. And if you ignore the spacing, the word essence is always the one that sticks in my mind, because it's dit 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 da dit da dit da dit dit. It's got a great tune to it, but it's all the spacing for the letters is completely wrong. And anybody out there that's watching this that knows more, sorry, but it's just a great tune. Dit 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 da dit da dit da dit dit. It's brilliant. Yeah. Right, I should concentrate on my tea because that is a really good boil now. And I need a cup of tea, so I gauge that about right. Just going to dry this pot out inside. You're probably wondering, hey, why is he drying that pot out? Because around here, a lot of mosquitoes, and really hot steel pot, they ain't going to come nowhere near. However, if there's a little bit of water in the bottom of there, you'll be surprised how they're attracted to it. What attracts mosquitoes is actually the carbon dioxide in your breath. They have little sensors on. This is really hot now, so I'm just going to let that cool down here somewhere. Let's find a rock. There we go. Let that cool down. Always, always, always remember what's hot and what's not. Because if you touch that and you get a burn out here, not fun. The other thing I'm going to do with this stove is, it is still, believe it or not, just burning through the little twigs that I put in the top to get this thing going. I can still see the little twigs in there, they're still burning. So I am going to leave that as is at the moment and just let it go. The other thing I really like with this compass is it's got an inclinometer. Right, as I was saying, one of the other things I really like with this compass is that little black needle in the bottom. If I can turn it, see if you can see it swinging, see it moving. That's an inclinometer. Now, you might say, what's an inclinometer? I'm going to tell you. If you're in the bottom of a hill and you're looking up a mountain and you're looking at a slope, generally most slopes, loose material slopes like scree slopes and what have you, they form what's called a terminal slope, which is approximately 42 degrees. Which is why the Egyptians originally had trouble copying the original pyramids, because they couldn't figure out how the original builders of the big pyramids actually got them to stay up at that angle, because the angles were ridiculous, and that's why they drilled holes and bored holes through the pyramids to try and figure out how they got them to stay there. One of the problems with any loose material is if you take a pile of sand, pile of rocks, doesn't matter how big it is, if it's loose material and you pour it into a pile, the angle on the side of that pile is usually about 42 degrees. There are very few things that you can stack up that will exceed 42 degrees. I do have my water bucket with me, by the way, and although it's only a hoo-hoo stove, I do have a bucket full of water. It'll be 42 degrees. So if you're at the bottom of somewhere and you can see a big scree slope in front of you, you know that slope is somewhere between 0 and 42 degrees. For want of a better calculation, just think of it as 45 degrees. A lot of hard work, a lot of up. And also, if that material is very loose, as you go up scree slopes or traverse across slopes, you can disturb them. And you can end up with a whole pile of rock, thousands of tons of rock or loose shale or whatever, suddenly sliding downhill. It can happen. It does happen. Sadly, every now and again, people will get caught in that trap. They see the material and think, oh yeah, I can just get across there, it's not a problem. But you've got to bear in mind, whether it's sand or boulders the size of cars, if it's stacked up in a loose pile, doesn't matter, 42 degrees, that stuff can come down on you. So, inclinometer. You're out and about and you're looking at a hill and you look in front of you and you think, oh, there's a hill. So you hold it out like this, sight up along the top of the plastic to the top of the hill so it's level. You can then look at the inclinometer. So if I'm going to take the top of that tree up there, I'm going to try and not move it. Just bring it. I'm just giving you an angle. That gives you an idea. If I measure the distance from here to the bottom of the base of that tree and taking that angle, I can very quickly calculate the height of that tree. Wouldn't take long. You know, if the height of that tree is 100 feet and I'm 100 feet away from the tree, you know, and I've got a 45-degree angle here, I know my numbers are correct. I know that I have a 100-foot tree. So if you're out in the mountains, you're looking at a hill and you think, oh, I don't know if I can make it up there or whatever, side up on the top of the hill. If it's a 30-degree hill, 30-degree hills usually fairly easy, up and down, not a problem. Once you start getting into the terminal slopes, like 42, 45-degree slopes, that's real energy sucking. Yeah, hell, I know you see trail runners that can run up and down that stuff like they're nothing. Hats off to them. I can't. My days of running up and down hills in the Brecons and what have you, that's long gone. Yeah, not doing that anymore. I just walk now. But when you're planning a route up a hill or up a mountain, you can look at that and say, okay, well, that's a terminal slope, 42 degrees. If I zigzag up this hill, yes, I've got to walk twice as far, or maybe a little bit longer. But the amount of energy that you're going to save by not killing yourself going up a really steep hill, it's worth it. That's why you'll find trails and that out in woods and like or parks and that build trails. That's why they zigzag. They don't just go straight up. It's easier for them just to make a trail straight up. Yeah, but it's going to kill the people trying to get up it. There'll be a whole bunch of dead bodies at the top where they've all collapsed and died. Yeah, that's not the idea. You're supposed to be out and about enjoying yourself, not killing yourself getting up and down hills. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Great compass. It has the mirror on it, which is stunning. Yeah, it does have a nice lanyard on it. Like I say, they do give you this little screwdriver thing here, this little metal thing on here. That is a screwdriver for adjusting your offset wherever you are in the world. Make sure you do that before you use the compass, especially if you're using maps, because you don't want to be walking all day and you suddenly find yourself you're actually 5 kilometers off where you need to be because you didn't set it correct. Yeah, that'd be kind of a pain. So always know what part of the world you are, always set it correct. Right, I'm going to put this down and concentrate on making a cup of tea. Right, tea is made. The world is good. You have to have tea. You can't come out in the middle of nowhere enjoying the day not having a cup of tea. That tree is definitely leaning over further than it was, but quite often you'll find these trees can go 45 degrees, even ridiculous angles like this, and then suddenly one of the roots will snap, which is why you always keep your ears and eyes open. Like sitting here, you know, it's a bit of a dodgy spot, but I do have a very good escape route over there. As soon as I hear anything move or see anything move, I'm going that way. So I have my tea. Now, in terms of knives and stuff like that, there's always a lot of talk in bushcraft about this knife, that, which is the best, which is good, which is whatever. A lot of people take the piss out of that Gerber that I have, and not because it's a bad knife, it's just some people just really don't like the guy whose name is on it. That doesn't make it a bad knife. He didn't get to do the job that he did by being an idiot, so respect is due. Trust me, it's that's something that's, yeah, that kind of does bug me when people give that guy crap because he didn't get to do the job he did by being an idiot. That's not a requirement for that job, quite the opposite in fact. So it is a brilliant knife. There are some really good bushcraft knives out there. That one, like I say, I have beaten that through logs. I have split wood with that thing. I've pulled myself up ice pieces with that. I was down in a valley and there was a frozen waterfall, and to get to where I wanted to get was a little bit further up around the corner than I was kind of comfortable getting. So I did have my micro spikes on, and if I hadn't had that knife for extra stability in the ice, I don't think I could have got up there. It was actually very advantageous going up there because you can't get up there in the summer because it's just a raging stream. You can't get up there, but in the winter when it all sets in -30, it sets solid, you can get up in there. So I actually found a really nice place. It's somewhere I like to go. It's very hard to get to because you can only get there in the middle of winter, and trust me, that is a really good spot. Yeah, that's a great spot for winter camping because nobody ever goes there. I can also tell you that coming out of there on the way out, when you come down that piece of waterfall, because it's like a slope, it's just a long slope, it's probably about 20 feet, 25, maybe 30 tops feet of angled straight down like this snow and ice, and it's getting out of there is real easy. You just sit at the top and slide. Getting up there not quite so easy. One of the other things I bought with me today, I absolutely love Mora knives. This is the Mora Bushcraft. It's got a thicker blade than like the small ones that I have. I've got the Light My Fire and the little green one. I can't remember what the green one's called. But this has a thicker blade. This is the orange Bushcraft because, as you can see, very hard to lose that. There is a black version of this. Comes with a striker. Has a very nice fire steel on here as well. Got a really nice fire steel. I've never used this fire steel. This, although it is a good quality one, it's they Mora make great products. And considering how much these things cost, you know, it's got a sharpener on this one and everything. I mean, you can't beat that for an everyday knife. And I hear the same story from people who say, well, it's not a full tang knife, it's not a full tang knife. People get obsessed with all that kind of good stuff. The Gerber I have is full tang. You can use that for pounding in nails and all kinds of very, very, very strong knife. This one, you'd have to go some. I don't think using this for the purpose that it was built for, I don't think you could actually reasonably break this unless you absolutely tried to break it. Get out of it, mosquito. Yeah. Unless you absolutely tried to break this thing, I don't think you could. It's brilliant. The only thing I really wish it had was a hole through here for a lanyard. I like to have a lanyard. You've probably noticed that just about every tool that I have, every knife I have, axes, everything, all has a lanyard on it. The Gerber one that I have down here, I added an extra lanyard on that because if I'm out and about and I'm doing something, I like to have that attached to my wrist. I don't want to drop a knife. If something jumps on you, I don't want to have the knife laying on the ground. You're rolling on the ground with a 150-pound cat. The chances of you surviving is pretty much nil anyway. However, if you drop your knife, your chances just went down to next to nothing. You've got a very slim chance to actually be able to do something, so make sure it's attached to you. Again, if you're going through the bush and you're tired, it's the end of the day, and you drop your knife, it's gone. You need that knife with you. If it's attached to your wrist, permanently attached to your wrist, it's great. Or my whistle, everything I have has a bloody lanyard on it. And all I do, same as my boots. Here's a trick for you. People go out and buy boot laces. They are insanely expensive for what they are. I just buy paracord or tough cord, as this is. I think this is the Chinese equivalent of paracord. And all I do is I buy this stuff in 150-foot reels, usually 150-foot lengths, and I cut it up and use it for laces. This stuff is so strong. Just heat the ends with a lighter just to melt the ends over, and it's, for what you get, it's probably 10 cents to make a set of laces, maybe not even. Yeah, but people go out and they'll spend $6 on a set of laces. Why? It's the same stuff. They just have the little eyelet things on the end of them, or whatever they call them, the little metal things. It's I don't need that. I just weld them over or heat them over. Done. Finished. You're probably wondering why I have my trousers in my socks, because all through here it's absolutely full of deer, and deer ticks, unfortunately, you carry Lyme disease, so always make sure they are tucked in. Always. Yeah. And that, I have to say, was a very good cup of tea. Yeah. Right, let's let all that stuff cool down, and I'll get back in a mo. Right, we can't come out to somewhere like this. The fire was dying down a little bit. People say, how long do these things run for? On a full charge of pellets like that, they run for about an hour, but I'm not finished with the fire yet, so I'll just put a few twigs in the top, just so. People say, can you fill them up again as you're using them? Yeah, you can. I just put literally a handful of twigs. And the advantage of these stoves is I've just boiled up enough water. I mean, you could make yourself a meal. I only used it to make tea, but you could make yourself a full-on meal for a few wood pellets or a handful of twigs. Yeah, literally a handful of twigs. If you're going to run these things on twigs, cut them into short lengths like this, and then stand them all upright so that all the sticks are all stood upright like this. Burns for much longer. If you lay them all down, it would appear they actually burn through pretty quick. But if you stand them upright, and the easiest way to do that is they're hard to stand up. So if you just kind of tip the stove over, lay them all in and build them up in layers all the way across, so you've got all your sticks laying flat like that, then stand it up. Works great. I've just thrown a few more sticks in there because I'm not ready to head out of here yet. I did bring some food with me. As always, make sure whatever you bring the food with you, you take home. I have a really nice grapefruit. Look at that for a grapefruit. That is a grapefruit. So let's open this bad boy up. I think that's, you see a lot of people cutting like this. If that knife slips and it hits your hand, trust me, this thing is like a razor blade. I keep this one really sharp. So I find when I'm cutting this, do it this way. Rotate your food against it rather than moving your knife around it, because your knife could slip and cut you here. I've seen that happen. I know people that have done it, and trust me, this thing, you can literally shave with this knife. It is really sharp, holds a good edge. So always rotate that. I do it without even thinking, so I just thought I'd mention that. Always make sure your knife is clean when you finish. You have nice clean trousers, always make sure it's clean. Yeah, perfectly sterilized, see, perfect. Oh, that smells so good. In here I have a protein bar, whatever you want to call them. Cliff bars, they're brilliant, love them. Yeah, they make them in all kinds of different flavors. But as always, make sure that whatever although this is organic material, yes, eventually one day in 5 years time it might actually rot away. It doesn't belong out here, so if it doesn't belong out here, stick it in a bag. The tea bags that I made the tea out of earlier, I've got them sitting there. They're drying up. The other good thing with having a bags like Ziploc bags and stuff and that with you is it hides food smells. Wildlife is curious. They're always looking for food. Food, water, shelter and sex. That's all wildlife is looking for. Not necessarily in that order, depends on the time of the year. But that is basically all they're looking for. If they smell something interesting, they don't know what it is. It could be food. So, good idea. Put it in a bag. Seal it up. Less food smell. Now, I tell you now, a bear's sense of smell is unbelievable. You think people always think of like bloodhounds, you know, they're amazing, they can track anything. Bloodhounds, very good for tracking. That's why they use them. However, compared to a bear's sense of smell, a bloodhound is just a pure amateur, total amateur. A bear can smell something possibly edible from further away than you can imagine. So, oh, that is so good. That is really good. You've probably noticed the fire has got a little smoky now because I've run out of flame in the top. That's just the charcoal burning through now, and that's exactly what these stoves do. They'll that charcoal in there will stay hot for a very long time. I've never actually let it get completely stone cold yet and burn right through, because it does smoke for a long time. That charcoal, it just keeps disintegrating into dust. I cannot even describe how good that tastes. Absolutely amazing. A lot of people want to rush off in life and they have to be entertained 24 hours a day. If they're not being entertained or whatever, they just can't cope with it. It's coming out and sitting here next to a tiny campfire compared to what I usually have. Drinking tea, making tea, drinking tea, eating a most amazing grapefruit. That is my definition of a really good day. I would rather be sat next to the creek down there. However, the sheer number of mosquitoes down there compared to where I am now, not even close. Yeah. The other problem, sitting right next to a creek, you can't hear. Your ears become numb to the sounds around you. Sit in a little bit further away. I mean, if there's something in the forest around here, there's a lot of deer and that around here. This time of the year, they're not too much of a problem. There are times of the year where you really want to avoid them, and but it's a good idea to be able to hear what else is out there in the forest. And if you're sitting next to a creek, you can't always do that. You know, that is smoking a lot, eh? That is a lot of smoke coming off there. But I'm just going to let it burn through and see what it does. I'm going to be here for a little while yet. I don't need any more fire, so I'm just going to let that smoke. And smoke is just incomplete combustion, so the charcoal in there is still burning, it's still going through, which is why you must never walk away from a fire. You think, oh yeah, I can't see no flames, it's good, it's just going to burn itself out. But I know if I went over there and blew on there, got a decent bit of heat in there, it could well reignite, or if I put some more fuel on there, I know I can keep that going. In fact, I'm going to try that. Oh, that is bright orange right the way down through there. So it'd be interesting to see what's left. I'm just going to let it go and see what's left. That's my tea bags from earlier. Let those cool down. I'm going to take them out of here as well. Only thing that will be left here at the end of today from my trip will be footprints. And you're going to have to look pretty closely to find those two. So, yeah, right. Let's let that finish doing its stuff. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this grapefruit, and I'll get back in a moment. So here I am, sometime later. Now I've separated, some of these pieces are still hot, some of them are not. So always bear in mind that some of these are really, really hot, like the fire basket and what have you. So I've tipped out the charcoal that was remaining, because basically it's just sitting there smoking. I don't mind it smoking a little bit when it's like this, because it keeps the mosquitoes down. And although mosquitoes are a monumental pain in the arse, and they spread all kinds of disease and all kinds of stuff all over the world, some places they're really bad. They are also the bottom of the food chain, and they're absolutely vital for a lot of species. If you see a dragonfly, everybody likes to see dragonflies, they're really cool. You'll see them zipping around in the air, you know, they're here, there and everywhere, over here, over there. And what they're actually doing most of the time is literally pulling mosquitoes out the air. People don't realise that a dragonfly will eat about 100 mosquitoes a day, which is good. Anything that eats 100 mosquitoes a day is good, but it's also a very important food source for the dragonflies. So if they were completely eradicated and removed, you've just removed the bottom of the food chain, and that affects everything on the food chain all the way up. So unfortunately, yes, they are a pain in the rear end, but it's a little bit of smoke off a campfire like this. That's why I'm not in any rush to put that out yet. You'll be surprised how that little bit of smoke, they really do not like that. So sometimes it's an advantage. Now you look at that and you think, that's not too bad, but if I blow that, see, a lot of hot coals in there still. So never walk away from a fire like that, although it was only a very small fire, basically in that little fire tray there. It's not big logs like that one there. That still has the potential to light a fire, you know, get a forest fire going. There is a saying, you can make a million matches out of a tree, but it only takes one match to destroy a forest. So those little embers that are sitting in there, still very, very important to make sure they are stone cold before you leave. And I have about 15 litres of creek water that I'm going to pour on that as soon as that's finished smoking. I haven't finished with it yet, and I'm quite happy for it to smoke a little bit longer. I've got to let these metal pieces cool down yet anyway. These two are cool, those three are not. So I'm just letting them sit on the rocks to cool right down. You'd be surprised, they cool down really, really quickly. This one is probably, yeah, look at that. I only took that off of there literally a couple of minutes ago, and I can already pick that up. Yeah. Those two pieces, not so much. I'm going to leave those for a while. I'm going to sit here and then just enjoy the forest there. Comes with a nice little my pot and pan set that I have. Most of my pots and pans and that are at home. I keep that one with me because I know I can boil a whole litre of water in that pot, and it doesn't take longer. If you put that in a on the Ohuhu stove, probably 8 or 9 minutes from full to full rolling boil, normal temperature water, literally 8-9 minutes, something like that. If you have a big fire going and you've got decent sized logs in there, you can boil water really fast. However, had I had a normal fire going in there today, I would have used quite a few logs, you know, and it you create a lot more carbon. The cows and that come up through here, I noticed there was a lot of hoof prints and what have you up through the forest here. So they've been coming up through here. They haven't found the campfire yet, because as soon as they do, they'll push all these rocks out the way and they will actually eat the charcoal. They love charcoal. Yeah, it's good for their digestion. It helps with something or other, I can't remember what, but it does actually help with their digestion. So they actually like to eat charcoal. So the just heard a stick snap over that way somewhere. Down through there I just heard a stick snap, which is, this is pine forest, and a lot of times things will fall out of a tree, but I've been watching this tree very closely because I know where I'm sitting. That tree is now leaning over further than it was. That bank over there has eroded some more due to the rain we had the other day. That great big tree that's now sitting in the creek down there that wasn't there the other day, that's kind of worrying because that's a big one. That is a big tree. So anytime I hear anything creaking or whatever, I'm watching. So just going to let that smoulder for a bit. As you can see, we're just about out of smoke, and people will walk away from a fire like that, but then the wind gets up, blows it into some drier material. Hey presto, embers like that and a strong wind, that's a recipe for disaster right there. Yeah, so always a good idea to make sure you pour loads and loads and loads of water all over this stuff. Once this metal is cold enough for me to pick up, I will wash off the individual parts, and then that way I know that absolutely stone cold, there's nothing hot in there. Last thing you want to do is put that in your backpack and get halfway home and your pack's on fire. That'd be kind of bad. Be kind of funny to watch in the video later. However, at the time I don't think it would be quite so funny. Yeah. Right, let's let this do its thing. I'm going to pack up some of this gear and get myself sorted. Right, done for today I think. I'm going to head out and do a little bit of exploring just a little bit further up. Make sure everything is put away, no garbage, only footprints. Campfire, I've just put 2 buckets of water on that thing, so probably about 20 litres of water to put out an Ohuhu stove. I think is probably pretty much enough. Yeah, it's stone cold in there. It's just a liquid soup underneath those rocks now, which is exactly how it should be. There's nothing in there that's going to burn. It's just a big swampy soupy mess. Mosquitoes are loving it now, they're all in there. And it, like I say, once I finish with this site, I will disturb all those out. I'm really surprised this lot didn't get washed right out of here the other day, actually. I expected to come back today and find this completely washed out. However, not so much. Right, so that's all done. Look how much this vegetation grows in here. Literally, you come back in here next year, chances are this vegetation will be 2 to 3 feet tall. This little tree down here that I've been keeping the fire away from, doing very nicely. Yeah, that tree is definitely leaning over more. I'm really surprised it's not down because we did have some good wind. And it's now time I headed out of here. Right, gotta work my way out through that lot now. Right, that'll do for the moment. So here I am exploring up through a piece of forest. It's pretty tumbled down in here, you can see. And as I'm walking along, laying on the ground, I found a lighter. Been there for some time, was literally stuck in the mud. However, let me show you, watch. it still works. I just found this lighter, literally, I kid you not, I just found this lighter laying on the ground here. Been there for some time. I'm now attracting the attention of a lot of mosquitoes because I've stopped. Let me keep moving. I will remove that out of here. Yeah. As you can see, this is a bit, I normally come in from over that way, but decided to explore a bit more up this way. I'm normally further over on that side. It's actually easier to walk through that side than it is this side. The things you find in the forest, eh? This is my kind of forest. Just me and a woodpecker, an angry woodpecker over there somewhere. Tell you what, a lot of these little side creeks in here were obviously flowing pretty bad the other day in all that rain, because it's pretty chewed up in here. Right, I'm going to continue on my way. Well, that was a lucky find, wasn't it? Look at that. Things you find, eh? Right, I'm going to continue that way. Well, that's a bugger. This big tree that's now laying parallel to the bank is the one I was going to use to cross this creek, because it used to go straight across here, and you could go across this one, hop over that little one, and then back up the bank the other side. However, as you can see, the water we had through here the other day has turned it sideways. Well, that's a bugger. Just imagine how much force it took. I don't know how much that tree weighs, but imagine how much force it took to turn that tree round. That was my bridge. That's what I came up here. I was going to cut across here, but I guess not now. Look at that. We'll just have a quick look up through the middle of this mess and see if there's another one. Failing that, I have to head out of here a completely different route. Oh, there are a lot of trees down in there, but whenever you're crossing water like this on trees, literally, there's the tree route. I've crossed on this tree several times in the past. Apparently not anymore. Quite amazing, isn't it? The power of water. I can actually see a deer looking straight at me through the forest. If I look straight up through the trees there, I'm going to get it right in the middle of the shot. It stood there staring straight at me. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. I can't zoom in with this camera without turning it off. But literally there is a deer stood right there facing me, looking at me, thinking, what the hell is that? So this is the thing, if they don't move, you ain't never going to see them. And, yeah, literally right in the middle of the shot. Yeah, it's just that they're watching me. Thing is, bears and stuff can do that too, so I don't mind looking through the trees and seeing a deer looking at me. If I look through the trees and I see a bear looking at me, well, that's kind of different. So I have to head out of here a completely different way, and with a lot more mosquitoes. So unfortunately, to get out of here, I now have to go that way. Oh well, off I go.